Your phone has a setting that lets hackers intercept your calls and text messages using equipment that costs less than $1,000 and fits in a backpack. The setting is not hidden. It is not something a malicious app installed. It came with your phone, it is enabled by default, and it has been there since the day you bought it. It is called 2G fallback. And before we talk about cleaning up your phone's storage, which we are also doing in this video, we need to talk about this first because the security risk it creates is real, documented, and fixable in about 30 seconds. When phone carriers market 5G, they are selling you a specific picture: modern, fast, secure connectivity that leaves the vulnerabilities of older networks behind. The picture is partially accurate and importantly incomplete. 2G, the cellular network standard developed in 1991, has a fundamental security problem at its core. It was designed in an era when the primary concern was whether a call connected, not whether that connection was secure. The 2G standard does not require a mobile device to verify that the cell tower it is connecting to is a legitimate tower operated by a real carrier. This gap in the authentication process is what makes 2G vulnerable to a specific category of attack, using devices called IMSI catchers, sometimes referred to as stingrays after a popular commercial brand. An IMSI catcher is a device that impersonates a legitimate cell tower. It broadcasts a strong enough signal that nearby phones see it as the best available connection and connect to it, just as a phone would connect to a real tower. Once your phone is connected to the fake tower, several things become possible. Calls made through the intercepting device can be recorded. Text messages can be captured. In some configurations, the device can identify which phones are in a given area by capturing their unique identifiers. IMSI catchers have been used by law enforcement for legitimate investigative purposes in documented cases. They have also been used by governments against journalists and activists and have been detected at protests and political events in multiple countries. Commercial variants are available on the gray market at costs that put them within reach of well-resourced criminal organizations. Now here's the part that matters for your phone today. When you're in an area with a strong 5G signal, your phone uses 5G and the 2G vulnerability is not directly relevant. But your phone is constantly managing its connection, assessing signal strength, and switching between network types to maintain the best available connection. An IMSI catcher does not need to compete with the real 5G network on its own terms. It broadcasts a signal that tells your phone the 5G service is unavailable or weak and that 2G is the best option. Your phone, following the default configuration of falling back to the best available signal, drops to 2G and connects to the fake tower. This is a downgrade attack. Force the phone off the secure modern network and onto the insecure older one. It works because your phone is configured by default to accept 2G as a valid fallback option. When 5G was designed, the engineers who built the standard included authentication protocols that would prevent this kind of spoofing attack. A device connecting to a true standalone 5G network can verify that the network it is connecting to is legitimate. The downgrade attack does not work against properly implemented standalone 5G because the phone can authenticate the tower before completing the connection. The problem is that most 5G networks deployed today are not standalone 5G. They are what the industry calls non-standalone 5G, which means they use 5G for the radio connection, but rely on older 4G and in some cases 3G core network infrastructure for authentication and routing. Non-standalone 5G does not include the authentication improvements of the full 5G standard. Standalone 5G networks are being built, and in the coming years, more of the infrastructure will transition to fully standalone configurations. But right now, most 5G connections your phone makes are non-standalone, and those connections do not close the downgrade vulnerability the way the marketing for 5G implies they do. The fix is straightforward on Android. Here's exactly where to find it. Open Settings. Tap Network and Internet. Tap SIMs, or depending on your device, you may see Mobile Network. Scroll down and find the setting called Allow 2G, or sometimes labeled as Use 2G. Toggle it off. This setting tells your phone not to use 2G as a fallback option under any circumstances. If an IMSI catcher tries to force your phone down to 2G by pretending that 4G and 5G are unavailable, your phone will not comply. It will either maintain its existing connection or show no signal rather than connecting to the fake tower. The trade-off is that in areas with no 4G or 5G coverage at all, your phone will show no signal rather than falling back to a 2G connection. In most urban and suburban areas, this is not a practical limitation. In truly remote areas where 2G is the only available network, this setting would leave you with no cellular service. For most users in most locations, turning off 2G is a security improvement with minimal practical cost. Apple does not provide a direct toggle for disabling 2G in the way that Android does. The closest equivalent on iPhone is Lockdown Mode, a security feature designed for users who face elevated security risks. Lockdown mode, introduced in iOS 16, significantly restricts your iPhone's functionality to reduce its attack surface. Among its protections, it restricts the cellular connections your phone will make, blocking the kind of downgrade attacks that force a phone onto 2G. It also restricts certain web features, disables some message types, and prevents unknown accessory connections. The trade-off for lockdown mode is significant. It is designed for journalists, activists, lawyers, and other people who face serious targeted threats. For ordinary users, the restrictions it imposes on normal functionality make it too limiting for daily use. If you are a regular iPhone user without elevated security concerns, lockdown mode is probably not a practical everyday setting. Keep this in mind. The Android 2G toggle is the more accessible protection, which is worth considering if you are evaluating platforms for security purposes. For iPhone users who do not enable lockdown mode, the best available protection against downgrade attacks is awareness of environments where the risk is elevated and, where possible, using encrypted communication applications like Signal for sensitive calls and messages. Signal's encryption operates at the application layer, which means even if a call is intercepted at the cellular layer, the content of a Signal call is encrypted independently of the cellular network. Android 16 and the Mobile Network Security Suite. For users with compatible hardware, Android 16 introduces a more comprehensive set of cellular network protections called the Mobile Network Security Suite. This suite includes features that actively monitor the cellular connection for signs of interception, can detect certain behaviors associated with IMSI catchers, and provides alerts when suspicious network behavior is detected. It also includes the ability to disable 2G, which we have already covered, along with protections against other forms of cellular network attack. The Mobile Network Security Suite requires specific hardware to function fully. At launch, it requires a Pixel 10 or equivalent hardware with the necessary baseband security features to support the full suite of protections. Older devices running Android 16 will not have access to all of the suite's capabilities, even if they can run the operating system. For users with compatible hardware, this represents a significant step forward in on-device cellular security. The monitoring capabilities go beyond simply blocking 2G and actively look for the behavioral signatures of interception attempts. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the digital rights organization, has also released an independent detection tool called Ray Hunter that can detect certain types of cellular network interception. Ray Hunter operates as an app and monitors cellular network behavior for indicators associated with IMSI catcher activity. It is not a foolproof detection system because IMSI catchers vary in sophistication, but it represents an independent verification layer beyond the phone manufacturer's built-in security. Now that the security setting is handled, let us talk about storage. The relationship between storage and performance on a modern smartphone is direct. When storage fills up, the system has less room for the temporary files that apps create during normal operation, less room for the on-device caching that speeds up frequently used applications, and less space for the operating system to manage its own processes efficiently. A phone that is nearly full performs noticeably worse than the same phone with adequate free space. Here is something worth understanding about why your storage fills up. Many of the settings that consume storage were configured by the manufacturer or by the apps themselves, not by deliberate choices you made. Your messaging apps, by default, download every photo, video, and voice message that anyone sends you, every single one automatically, to your device storage, without asking whether you want it. Your browser downloads folder accumulates files from every document you opened in the browser, every PDF, every attachment previewed. These accumulate invisibly until they collectively consume gigabytes of space. When you see a storage full warning, you're often seeing the result of manufacturer defaults and app defaults that were set to maximize engagement and convenience without regard for your storage constraints. You are cleaning up a mess that was made on your behalf without your awareness. There is also a structural reason why available storage is more constrained than it used to be. Modern AI features built into smartphone operating systems and built into specific apps require local model storage. The on-device AI models that power smart features, voice recognition that works offline, camera processing that enhances photos, text prediction, and similar capabilities require storage space for their model files. Across a modern smartphone, these AI models and their associated processing infrastructure can consume 40 to 60 gigabytes of storage that is not visible or accessible to the user. It is effectively permanently reserved. This means that a phone sold as 128 gigabytes may have closer to 70 usable gigabytes after the operating system and AI infrastructure take their share. And that 70 gigabytes fills with app defaults faster than most users realize. Here are the 5 actions to take right now in order of typical impact. Clear app caches on your heaviest used apps. On Android, go to Settings, Apps, select an app, tap Storage, and tap Clear Cache. The cache is temporary files the app created to speed up its operation. And clearing it frees space without deleting any of your personal data. Do this for your social media apps, your browser, and your email app. These typically have the largest caches. On iPhone, some apps offer a cache clearing option within their own settings, and deleting and reinstalling an app is the most complete way to clear its cached data. Find and delete duplicate photos and old screenshots. Your phone's photos library likely contains multiple nearly identical shots. From the same moment, multiple screenshots of things you meant to reference and have long since forgotten, and photos that were automatically saved from messages and social media. Most phones now include a built-in duplicate detection tool in the Photos app. Use it. Go through your screenshots folder specifically, because this category tends to accumulate rapidly. A typical user has hundreds of screenshots they no longer need. Check your Files app and Browser Downloads folder. Open your Files app and look specifically at the Downloads folder. This is where your browser saves every file you opened or downloaded. PDFs from work emails, documents from web pages, attachments you previewed. This folder is rarely cleaned out and often contains dozens of files consuming significant space. Delete everything you do not need. Turn off automatic media downloads in your messaging apps. In WhatsApp, go to Settings, Storage and Data, and configure each network type to not automatically download photos, videos, and voice messages. In Telegram, go to Settings, Data and Storage, and reduce or eliminate automatic downloads. In iMessage, similar settings exist. After making these changes, media that people send you will only be downloaded when you deliberately choose to view it, rather than being saved to your storage automatically the moment it arrives. Delete apps you have not opened in 6 months. Go through your app list and identify apps you have not used in more than 6 months. For each one, ask whether you would reinstall it if you needed it again. If yes, delete it now and reinstall when needed. The storage occupied by an unused app is cost without benefit. Many phones now show you when you last used each app in the app settings, which makes this audit straightforward. 1 security setting and 5 storage actions. Disable 2G in your Android network settings. If you're on iPhone with elevated security concerns, consider lockdown mode for specific situations. Clear your app caches. Delete duplicate photos and old screenshots. Clean out your downloads folder. Stop automatic media downloads in your messaging apps. Delete unused apps. The 2G setting is the one to do immediately before you put the phone down. The storage cleanup takes 10 minutes today and then 5 minutes a month to maintain. Your phone's default configuration serves the interests of the people who built it. These changes make it serve yours.